I believe when we have a new idea, although it may be rejected by the masses at first, it's the only way towards progress. We must fight for these ideas, with our words, with protest, with little Timmies in the comments who are up on the family computer after they piss themselves and are too scared to get mum. It's a famous quote from my ass because I made it up, but what's not made up is my message, and it needs to be shared no matter the cost. Welcome to my ranking of every course in Mario Kart World. I may be a bit late to this, but I believe I'm late enough to actually form some solid enough opinions over 50 plus hours of gameplay while giving you the analysis you deserve. Boo Cinema at number 1? That's already aged worse than my gambling addiction. We might just get Mario Kart 9, or whatever the hell it'll be called, launching with the next Nintendo system in holiday 2024. The guidelines will be the same stuff as last time, with some extra stipulations to cover the open world shenanigans of this game. I will specifically be ranking the named locations in this video, all 30 of them, with a review focused mainly on the 3-lap regular versions of each course. Any variations on the courses, however, will factor into the ranking proportionately to how often they can appear, triggered by driving through the game's open world to arrive at a course from different directions. I know plenty prefer the 3-lap versions, but whether you like it or not, Nintendo's stubbornness means you'll at least sometimes be forced to drive through the open world, so these variations are definitely worth considering. With that said, let's get to the ranking because I have debts to settle. Boomer take incoming, the younger generation have it so easy nowadays. Back in my day you had to steal or kill to be eternally damned. Now you can just pick Koopa Troopa Beach. In our last place at the bottom of F tier, hailing from Super Mario Kart, it's SNES Koopa Beach 2. Sorry, Koopa Beach 2. Koopa Troopa Beach 2. Koopa Troopa Beach, I guess is what it's called now. A disappointment from frame 1 as you boot up the course and realize it's stolen the name of a much less sinful track from the 64. But don't let that fool you, Koopa Troopa Beach really is just Koopa Beach 2 from Super Mario Kart. I had high hopes this would at least include all its variants, especially since I spotted Koopa Beach 1 right over there. Maybe it would even include 64 Koopa Troopa Beach after it had the goal to steal its name. 1 lap of each course, Mario Kart Tour style. Nope! It's not only just Koopa Beach 2, but 5 laps of an extremely dumbed down version of it. I predicted this course would return. It's one of the better tracks from the first Mario Kart game, but it was with the stipulation that they evolve it in some way, expanding off the island in the middle maybe. They may have a new beach rave in the aesthetics and music, but you don't drive on the aesthetics and music, do you? The world's smallest bumps and grass cuts can't save this tiny circle track. The relatively complex obstacles of its original deep water holes are just done away with entirely. We couldn't have at least added slow patches in their place. They have you go around 5 laps of it as if that makes up for its lacking everything, but all it does is prolong the suffering. There's not even a chance of a baby park effect where you lap the other races. It's just too big for that. So I have to wonder what happened to the standard of 8's Booster Course Pass, revolutionizing Bowser Castle 3. I must be in a bizarro world where the Booster Course Pass, famous for such classic hits like Toad Circuit, Sunset Wilds Without the Sunset, and London Loop, beat Mario Kart World. Boo! F-tier jump scare! I know, Boo Cinema looks so cool. How could I put it this low? I'm disappointed too, but I had to look at the actual track layout and it completely wastes its fantastic theme. This course just follows one continuous line. There are maybe 2 grind rails, one of which is completely fake and slows you down or just gets in the way at the end. The other is on an outside turn. Who the f is using that? It has a really great old film filter as you drive across reels of film in the film screen. But it's really only called Boo Cinema because of a couple of boos off to the sides. Nothing haunted or scary outside of that, it just feels like they gave up at the concept development stage. They couldn't have had a horror movie play out around you, getting in the way of all the drivers. Those are the only 2 courses I consider F tier and truly despise playing, with an audible groan whenever they're picked. D tier is distinct because it just gets an eye roll and an exasperated, fine. Mario Bros. Circuit is the first course in the game, so I can't fault it too hard for being bland, but when pitted against everything else, especially when picked annoyingly often in versus races, it's bad by pure comparison. It's really just a slightly raised track with rails alongside it the whole time, but I have to give it props for its beautiful environment. I love the Rocky Mesa landscape. I swear it's based on somewhere in the USA. Oh, radiator springs from cars.
Pull off your skin.
It's a serviceable introduction to rail grinding with plenty to play on, certainly more than the F-tier courses can say, with cuts on a rail behind tyres and a hidden drop-off fork into a glider ramp. While not a required skill to learn at all, I'd argue this course would have benefited from a small crash course on wall riding in the same way it does with rail grinding. Even just for a short moment, have some rails fully aligned with a wall where players see they can flip off the rail onto a wall. Thus, even as an introductory course, it's both unexciting and lacking, especially when you approach it backwards. What a deflating finish that is. Fine, it's time to talk about Desert Hills. The last 3 Mario Kart videos, I've had to rant about the
mandatory desert course.
Luckily, they picked Shy Guy Bazaar like I suggested in my retro predictions video. However, what the hell have you done? Nothing, I just picked Shy Guy Bazaar as the desert course for Mario Kart World. You moron, you've upset the balance. You can't put in a good desert course without an equally shit one. Get Desert Hills in, now, now, now! This course deserves no more from me other than utter defeat and resignation at this point, because its third chance to be remade has failed again. While the original was a really empty and boring course, Super Mario Bros. 3 inspired the presentation. So now, it's a really empty and boring course, where Super Mario Land inspired the presentation. You don't drive on the aesthetics! Why is it even called Desert Hills anymore? They killed its old hills, now barely tough turns with no elevation at all. The track layout has very little going on besides this rail and glider bit that kinda feels slower than the regular path. They truly sucked the soul out of this one. No deep yellows, no weird pipes, pyramids, or angry sun to see. Why, oh why, was this Desert Hills selected to return a third time over never remade DS tracks? Never mind, Desert Hills it is! Rounding off D tier is Peach Stadium, purely by averaging its variations. It feels a bit unfair because the main version of this course, the one in Special Cup and the 3-lap version, is fairly inoffensive and plays like a circuit course with some added dimension. And its rail grind up to the roof with multiple ways to get up there and flip off of it, even onto a super tight and fast rail grind, is even quite fun. But it doesn't have much more than that, putting it around C tier. But my god, its other track, if I can stretch it further than my Johnson to even call it a track, belongs in the fucking G tier. What the fuck is this? It's a big ass rectangle, possibly the worst track of all time. Accessible if you select Peach Stadium 2/5 of the time, heading from Crown City, Choco Mountain, Faraway, Oasis, or Cheap Cheap Falls. There are a few cars, and luckily, this version is the less common one, yet still laid bare in the Grand Prix for all to point and laugh. And hence, Mario Kart's very own Russian Roulette averages out to D tier. No, guys, not from Faraway Oasis, please! Starview Peak is the worst of C tier, a tier of missed potential all round. This course sadly marks the second Rosalina/Galaxy course to fall into that pit hole, arguably more disappointing than Rosalina's Ice World. While similarly atop an icy summit, Starview Peak pulls from Rosalina's library and the dreadful motion-controlled water-riding manta ray levels from Galaxy to do something super creative here as you surf atop a floating path of water under a beautiful night light show, while it boosts your water speed the whole way. It's just a shame there's very little depth to its layout. The most you do is flip into stars to maximize your airspeed and drive on a very dull green and yellow path? Guys, no. Stop picking Ice Outpost. This might be my most controversial take so far, but in my opinion, the rails everywhere on Whistlestop Summit make for an absolute clusterfuck of course design that encourages flipping between and off rails, yet punishes you for it with rails that rarely ever line up. Most of the time, you're best off avoiding rails near outside turns or just riding one over all the course design, ignoring this whole left side. I really love the setting and train running through the course. It does that part far better than Calamari Desert as the train runs concurrently with drivers instead of cutting them off. But the course design is somehow both counterintuitive and far too simple for my tastes. But these cuts are kinda wild though. Whoa, wait,
What the hell is happening?
Dandelion Depths, once more, makes its creative setting of a mystical cave dive with a vague resemblance to Mario Odyssey's themed gardens very linear and flat. I give it more credit than the others for functional set pieces in its dash panels, rail grinds, and wall ride flips onto high up ramps, but even then, this one is so out of the way you'd be a fool to go for it every time. The titular depths are thus very underwhelming with the illusion of openness. If you go out of your way at all here, you're just tossing the race. Exiting feels like a reversed Alpine Pass / Rock Mountain with these dash panels, but that course had a spectacular view and tumbling boulders to accompany that. Dandelion Depths has some water to trick out of in the cave at like slightly different elevations. Riveting. I'm very conflicted on Wario's Galleon / Wario Shipyard. This is one of the most drastically altered retro courses, where its Mario Kart 7 rendition originally served to showcase the brand new underwater driving. It's like driving normally, but the screen is blue now. Oh, and the cars have a propeller on them! Whoa! So Mario Kart World ditches underwater driving, now transforming the karts into boats as you race above the water, with very dynamic physics making waves you can trick off of like crazy. This sucks on Wario's Galleon though, because the water is still here like it was originally, it's just a flat plane, but now you can't even dive under it, bypassing some rather notable course design with the pipe gamble that could push you off the track. While not really the biggest deal, its replacement with annoying water physics is a hindrance enough to bump down what would otherwise be a decent B-tier course. And when driving in water, there's a lot of drag when readjusting your trajectory. Like you're fighting against the water, so whether the track is complex or not, it's quite frustrating, either boringly so over a big flat pool of water, or aggressively resistant when trying to navigate very turbulent terrain over water. Wario's Galleon suffers from the former mainly, with definite influence from the latter during the odd sharp turn, a very frustrating combination, and a lacking evolution from the classic course. Depending on your metrics, Mario Circuit marks, and I'm not joking here, the 6th time Mario Circuit 3 has appeared in a Mario Kart game. It's seen in Super Mario Kart, Super Circuit, Wii Tour, and the 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, and now Mario Kart World. Even if you exclude Tour as a non-mainline game and Super Circuit for including every Super Mario Kart track, it's appeared 4 times, still the highest of any other course, tied with 64's Choco Mountain, which appears in 64, DS, the 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, and now World. But they've made it interesting now. Kind of. All the Mario circuits from Super Mario Kart, the basic ass circuit courses of the game, are now each a single lap of this new Mario circuit.
Hey, aren't you forgetting something?
I suppose if you must bring back these courses, all of which have been remade before, countless times in fact, this is the best way to do it, honouring the first game now distinctly lacking the disgusting piss sky. They are shrunken down here, which makes some turns honestly even harder, with connecting external paths to bring each variant together. Plus, there are already some crazy ways to clear the Lego bricks with feathers and even just jumps. It's still just a basic circuit though, sullied further by the fact that most of the time you end up playing only one of its sections if you drive to this track. It's quite fun when you do all of them, and super lame when only one.
Well, come on, you guys were riding against us a second ago. What happened? What? No, we're angry at the guy next to you holding that. That is disgusting.
They did not need to remake Meadows. It's a basic ass course that's never placed higher than 2nd on the difficulty scale, and we have had it readily available in launch Mario Kart 8 for 11 years. But you're forgetting cow. Well, then you could say they should have remade Moo Farm instead, but I suppose Meadows is far more iconic and required them to do much less work to reinvent a course. And I just kinda have a fondness for Moo Meadows. The stupid cows everywhere are a hilarious hazard, especially to hit and duck under as they fly up. It's kinda nice to just have a classic Mario Kart course in a game full of wacky tricks and parts. This is pure items, turns, cuts, and driving. Unfortunately, its beautiful sunrise lighting from 8 is not a constant anymore, so it's dropped a tier for that and the fact that yes, it is a stale course at this point that nobody desperately asked for. Crown City goes up and down for me. At first it's great fun to go through a sprawling city, but then it all just... There's red arrows. In a city? Driving down straight roads? With unique laps? I have to adamantly fight off my Mario Kart Tour city track trauma to enjoy Crown City, and even then it's a roller coaster of quality. The city is so big that there are 3 variations on it you can drive through depending on where you arrive from, averaging out to a B tier despite its variety with even reversed portions at times. You can even play 3 laps of Crown City where each is unique, yes, making it like a tour city that we've seen 14 billion times. It was actually only 14, not 14 billion.
I will hunt down every single one of you tour fanboy commenters as you sleep.
Acorn Heights is a course I was initially way too harsh on because of its generic fantasy grassland deal that I felt was done far better previously. I start shaking remembering that awful period of over-sanitized Mario games where it was all just grassland. Hey there, sorry he's gone off the rails a little bit, but I hope you're enjoying the video. We love Mario Kart here. Mario is so silly, isn't he? Look at that silly bee. Look at his silly little face, as if that's gonna make up for this.
Hey there, my name's Lachie, and you're watching the Lachie LN channel. Oh,
Putting aside my initial unease, I did come to appreciate Acorn Heights for its own aesthetic. While the tree is unoriginal, feeling like a shrunken down little guy in the trench of giant leaves and mushrooms has its charm, like Wiggler's Garden in Mario Party DS. In that trench, the course opens up much more successfully than others in this game. It's got Dandelion depth splashing over there, with plenty leaves, mushrooms, beanstalks, and walls to trick and flip off of that won't cost your entire race. The end has some great cuts either through or above this little home, and especially satisfying flips between beanstalks if you can nail them. It's just a bit of a sterilized wild woods that does very little unique in what at times can just be a clusterfuck of leaves all over the place. Faraway Oasis takes place in a sprawling savanna with animals running all over the track. Wait, no, that's outside the course. Faraway Oasis has a big wooden platform or two over some water with like animals around the side. Just standing there. There they are. Okay, this track inverts my issue with the C-tier courses, with a lackluster theme, despite heaps of potential, over what I think is a pretty solid track layout with decent hazards. While the water driving is frustrating, it functions more as a deterrent with an alternative kart making use of the bouncy water physics, launching out of it onto a rail to take a higher up, sharper turn, all capped off with a perpendicular waterfall drift like Yoshi Falls and Koopa Cape. With a hairpin to end it off, races are tense on Faraway Oasis. Now for the other contender for the most recurring track in all of Mario Kart, it's Choco Mountain of all things. So thank God they've shaken up this tired old course. Get that thing to a retirement home because now it's Charge and Chuck Monster Truck time. We've had Choco Mountain's more traditional remakes plenty of times, very recently in fact, making this revolution far less risky and angering die-hard Choco Mountain fans. As for the track itself, it's got a killer rock cover, Charge and Chuck's kicking footballs and running all over the place, and tons of dirt, mud, and poo boulders to dodge. With so much dirt and mud all over the place, this course offers heaps of excitement as everyone tries to cut through the boggy off-road, all before the final mountain climb leaves everyone on even ground, where the amplified elevation of the mountain really adds a thrilling sense of scale and dread drifting off the dangerous cliffside. Although now I struggle to see where the Choco part of Choco Mountain is left, but I never cared enough for the original course to cry about it. I don't know if many did, to be honest. Salty Speedway somehow balances a controlled kind of chaos with so many rapid and shifting parts that flow pretty damn well. It doesn't have a distinctly memorable course element, it's mainly a trip up a hilly city and back down through a river, but the numerous rails and walls for skill expression and cuts are a joy to just muck around on. I would say it's maybe a little bogged down by my frustrations with the water physics, but really not enough that would move it out of the B tier, as you can pretty comfortably avoid the tight main path of water where the drag can really f you up, simply by sticking to this wall. Peach Beach averts a drastic overhaul of its original course, at least in the first lap, providing a really faithful remake, cataquacks included. For those with no sense of humor, those who were frustrated by them, they're even less frustrating now as they're bigger but much dumber and slower. Even if they do toss you into the air, you can recover pretty easily with a mid-air trick to get some speed back on your landing. Even still, you can now avoid them completely by driving over the water, so honestly, with less cataquacks than before, it's kind of a boring change. The original course was pretty inoffensive aside from this, but the last 2 laps now compose a section course with a whole new structure of towering buildings to ride atop. The unique parts in this area as you glide straight through this constructed valley allow for races all over the place. From top to bottom you can wall ride, rail grind, flip between each side, even ride chains on your way down to avoid free falling and losing speed. The rough part is just this bit at the end. Despite a hairpin turn, it is a rather flat strand of water to end it on. Whoa, hello? I think I've just teleported Whistlestop Summit up to 14th place, to the top of B tier. Look, since initially writing this, I've spent some extra time thinking and playing on Whistlestop Summit, for no real reason. So while I believe my original thoughts still stand, I've come around to appreciating the Bridge of Chaos with 6 lanes of rails to change over to as items and people are tossed everywhere, and I've now realized you're supposed to avoid the outside rails on this turn, lest you get stuck on an outside turn, which is a really fun challenge. And yes, I admittedly overlooked the depth of the rails on this course, especially as such an early Mushroom Cup course. Yet the course borders B tier because the best cuts are so difficult to hit. The variability is insane. You have to perfectly time your jump off this pipe and line yourself up exactly right to flip onto this rock to jankily reattach onto the rails again without getting sent over it like I have so many times. For the later one, you need to jump onto this wall while inputting an extra trick, jump off again, and hit this sign at just the right angle to jankily fall sideways correctly enough to the top of this wall. Sure, the course gets props for being designed in such a way to allow this kind of depth with the game's wonderful mechanics, but I've never seen anyone hit these cuts online yet. They're that precise. Most people will never, I will succeed like 5% of the time, where maybe the pros, after a lot of practice, will nail it. So if you don't go for the difficult start cut, the shortcut route is literally just being railroaded. If you don't go for the difficult end cut, you either fight for the same rail everyone tries to get on and get bumped off super often, or you wiggle around the bottom for a bit. I truly believe going for them is super fun, where if you f it up, you're not really in the worst position to just keep driving, but overall this course is a solid introduction to rail grinding with some outstanding depth you can only reach with a diamond encrusted jackhammer. Kicking off the A tier, DK Spaceport takes on a design philosophy unseen in Mario Kart before, composed of 5 sections climbing up girders up to a Robo DK chucking barrels at you. A loving reference to the original Donkey Kong game, in hindsight one of the most obvious ideas ever. It's executed well with a surprising amount of shortcuts and the player's first real exposure to changing rails while grinding, and even a dedicated wall riding area that's so tight you'd probably accidentally figure out how to do it. But the best of this course is the fact that unlike nearly every other course in the game, if you journey here from elsewhere, you still get to experience the full track, no compromises, so you get the best of the open world and the fully intended race course. I suppose this has aged like a fine wine with a new update, but I really wish it hadn't. It doesn't require the most complex driving and perhaps overuses trick ramps and springy platforms, but as a Mushroom Cup track, I can't get too mad over that. Guys! The Dry Bones fandom is alive! The boners are bigger than ever! We got Dry Bones, Fishbone, and now Dry Bones Burnout, a satisfying victory over so many tropes previous Mario Kart games have fumbled. Alternating split levels and paths, an amazing Dry Bones course, and a solid lava level outside of Bowser's Castle. And what a stunning course this is, styled wonderfully around the Day of the Dead with beautiful colours and skulls everywhere, and a spectacular soundtrack. This thematic layout blends perfectly with the skeletal motifs of Dry Bones and a smoking lava land to capture this afterlife-esque realm within the open world. It's super charming. For the track itself, the main goal is to stay at the top path as they split and twist everywhere, with rail cuts up to hidden glider ledges, and this cut that I live for, flipping way above the lava on this arcing wall into a glider ring. The new lava mechanics in this game also allow for some mushroom cuts as you blaze atop its surface before you sink. I have a lot of praise for this course, but its slower areas in the second half with a lot of AFK rail grinding aren't quite riveting enough to place it higher on the list. Sky High Sunday is a prime contender for the Most Improved Retro Course award, but I've got that reserved for a course later on the list. Yet I expected far less from Sky High Sunday than that other course, where it somehow realized the lackluster potential of the original. It immediately looks so much better, now I actually want to eat it. Why did the old one look like a damn Fall Guys stage? It feels like this course was truly made for this game with its rail grinding, rather than whatever the hell happened here in 8 Deluxe. There are new parts to take all over the place and some of the most insane wall rides you could even imagine. You want to take this turn as tight as possible? Drive on the outside of it, over the massive drop below, then flip back onto the course. It's literally designed to allow this. This course couldn't be more of a playground for the game's new mechanics. Hey look! I didn't put the DK snowboarding track in number 1 this time! And that's really because DK Pass isn't really a DK snowboarding track, it's more a quiet, windy road up into the snowy hills, yet a super pleasant one at that. The small snowboarding thematics added in the end are pretty neat, where the course is otherwise pretty faithful until that last jump. What I love is that the track retains its never-ending, tight, twisty turns on the cliffside and through the mountains that make for really engaging front running, alongside its harsh mushroom cuts for some crazily chaotic finishes with 24 races. It doesn't add a lot to the original, but it's got this sick pole jump off the ledge that even the CPUs do, just dunking on me, what the f***? Yet I warn you, attempt this cut online at your own risk. Cheap Cheap Falls is a course I wish I could place higher, even here in A tier at 9th. The location, first off, is one of the best in the game. The beautiful autumn leaves, the rocky river rapids, the traditional Japanese architecture, what a stunning landscape this is. With world shaking up the water physics with water riding, Cheap Cheap Falls is the most thrilling showcase of that spectacle in the game, with a super exciting course layout to boot. I just can't rank it much higher because I find the water physics especially rough when making the small adjustments necessary to thrive on the course's intricate turns. The gorgeous setting and its ever-winding layout still carry the track, but there are some nice cuts too. Not this one is so fake I swear it's designed to troll idiots with a massive time waste in the air. Unless you... Never mind, this cut is elite, no notes.
Yeah, just wait outside. Bye. Sorry, just had to guard my house before I rank the next course, which is at number 8 and is the Great Question Mark Block Ruel. Shit.
I know this is the competitive scene's love child, so just rest knowing you guys single-handedly raised this course a lot for me already, because holy crap is this insane shortcut so satisfying to hit. I swear I make so many new friends online every time I hit this cut and win at the last second. Great Question Mark Block Ruins, god that f***ing name, nails an amazing theme as every journey here rockets you up beyond the clouds to a giant floating question mark block, a staple of Mario iconography, gigantized into a mystical ruins, floating high as these blocks do. Fanboying aside, this course can get super technical with your expected, yet still tricky, rail grind cuts over grass and this nuts winding turn that goes wrong at least half the time, with wall riding, gliders, rails and poles everywhere. It is nutty. I just can't help but get frustrated with a few things, mainly its linearity. For the average player, this course doesn't actively do too much with set pieces or spectacle once you set aside its thrilling technicality and set dressing. It mainly follows a linear path, with a bit of variation on how you can approach that path, but if you don't feel like sweating your absolute balls off to graze this ring enough to trick off of it, this track doesn't offer anything spectacular. Airship Fortress is an immensely beloved course from Mario Kart DS and was snubbed from the booster course pass by Mario Circuit DS, even though this course was likely very cemented in World's development cycle at that point, and so I'm kind of scared putting it only in A tier. Rocky Wrenches and Banzai Bills assault the racers as they board an airship, the whole war a thrilling spectacle brought to another level for its home console debut. They're actually called Bomber Bills. The internal airship and fortress feel extra tight in this rendition, a welcome form of madness seen very rarely in the courses here. However, there really isn't a massive innovation here, which is totally fine. It's at the top of A tier for that alone. But while the rails it did add are quite fun, they bypass a lot of the obstacles coming aboard the airship. 24 players swerving around the giant Banzai Bills would be scarier than ever, but you can just do this now. I wish they kept the second half of this rail to maintain this flip here, but removed the front of it so we could still entertain this insane assault of Bowser's troops. Regardless, still an outstandingly fun and chaotic course. Now for the best of the best, we enter into S tier. Fantastic courses that have me engaged the whole way through, starting off with Bowser's Castle. Just a quick reminder that as the tiering of these courses is subjective, the ordering in particular certainly comes down to personal preference more than ever in the S tier, so of course, take my rankings as seriously as possible. This is life and death, and I hate you in particular watching this video. So Mario Kart World's iteration on Bowser's Castle blew me away just driving here. They've incorporated 64's Big Donut battle course with boom boom bosses spread all around, but hopping over the fragmented road and rocks over lava pools, up to a volcano to launch towards the demonic smoke Bowser looming over the skies. Holy shit, it's raw as hell. But that's not even the course itself. You've got the interior here that you can drive traditionally or flip off of the wall onto a rail grind, or cruise up to the top to flip back down below. Misaligned your trajectory? Just send it at full speed off the track, flip off this conveniently placed shipping crate, and you're back. But the reason I love this course is because it's the only one to use the turbo speed mechanic, not the actual name but I can't find an official term, on a course that is really difficult to stay on, sending you flying over each jump while dodging raining debris and hard drifting across overlapping U-turns. The speed is just pure dopamine, but extremely punishing if you aren't quick to react with precise drifts and reflexes. Mario Kart World's own Rainbow Road is best described as a journey, especially if you begin traveling from Peach Stadium across the water into the Flashbang Cannon. With 4 entirely unique sections, this course is long but certainly not a drag, winning 5th place without crazy shortcuts and rail rides, purely by its own merits. It's closest to 64's Rainbow Road if people weren't blinded by nostalgia and Stockholm Syndrome. Despite a generic start with some tough turns, we're suddenly flying over this tranquil crystal garden and a sparkling water track you zoom over with that extra boost again. The road goes on to reflect the cooler tones, then the warmer tones, then revealing the full Rainbow Road once again in the final section. But that skips over the space station with its rainbow thwomps and deep black of space, a section of boost pads on top of the permanent speed boost the course provides on its own. The train even brings some friends from all of the game's courses to wave you off. Dumbasses brought a tree for some fucking reason though. While I'll never be able to recapture my first time playing this course blind, the crumbly rainbow pieces, gorgeous particles and animations, and the beautifully dynamic soundtrack scoring each section from serene ambience to techno beats avoids making me tired of the uniquely tight races on this turbocharged track, fighting to inch closer and closer throughout the whole journey to win without some guy cutting half the course with a gold mushroom at the last second. While that's certainly its own brand of fun in plenty high-ranked, technically complex courses, Rainbow Road executes its own vision to an art form. Wario Stadium, the last course to be remade from Mario Kart 64, is finally here. And it was honestly a bit underwhelming at first, until you realize this scrapyard is your playground. This scrapyard stadium aesthetic is exactly the breath of fresh air this course needed, as it cuts down its Sisyphean length by a significant margin, with the inside of the course majorly scrapped as it just traced the existing track a second time every damn lap. Most of the major sections were revitalized, with its section of ramps in the more open area and the greatly amplified jump over the course with flames shooting everywhere. The music brings back the Raceway theme for the 4th game in a row, but this time it's far grungier with a rocking electric guitar thrown in there for Wario. That startup theme gives me chills before the main theme slams in to drown out all the noise, as if you're locking in to make this course your own. And that by a mile is the best part of this course. You can climb all its outside walls, ride the rails lining the top of it all, flip like crazy between them and make some insane cuts the whole way. Sure, there's this awesome traditional cut straight up the wall that lets you take a far sharper turn, but there are so many other ways to express yourself. And unlike Great Question Mark Block Ruins, you don't have to perfectly execute one cut to get your mileage. You're free at nearly every step of this course to do whatever the hell you want, and I love it so much for that. So congratulations 64 Wario Stadium, you went from one of the worst, longest, most empty and boring courses of all time to one of the best. Shy Guy Bazaar was one of my most anticipated courses to return because it's the light side of the
Mandatory desert course.
It does this by not driving on sand dunes, instead thinking of something else to put in a desert. In Mario Kart 7, it was a solid A tier course, but they expanded its already vast openness with an insane amount of parts you can undertake. Now the town just feels alive with detail. You can still dodge the market stalls from above or below, or you can grind off them on ropes hanging way over to the left, flip on and off walls over there if you enter from that side. Heck, you can even enter from these ropes, not that time, from these this is really fucking hard, from these ropes that take you way above the course to cut in sharper. Later on, with its insane hairpin turns, you can again rail grind on either side or take the old shortcut to set yourself up on the wall to flip across to the right, then wall ride and flip back again onto the main path. This course lost absolutely none of its turns and diverging paths, it just added more all over the place. And that's not yet to mention that if you approach Shy Guy Bazaar from Airship Fortress or Wario Stadium specifically, you'll be treated to this Daisy Palace variant of the course for a lap that I initially thought was just an extra free roam area. This variant isn't anything too crazy, it just further builds on how alive this place is without forcing itself in more often than it needed to. And now with the day-night cycle, the course's colourful vibrance shines under the sunlight whilst retaining its nighttime serenity. Dino Jungle from Mario Kart Double Dash feels like the retro course that got the biggest evolution in its design without reinventing the wheel. Its original was honestly kinda lame despite a solid track layout, as its integration of the titular dino hazards was fairly lacking. Now the whole area has been turned into a kind of research facility that tells a story as you play it. As you go around each lap, the dinosaurs actively move around all over the course, starting with the Triceratops you can trick off, where a Brachiosaurus stomps over the same spot in the second lap and walks over to the starting line at lap 3's beginning, making you weave an even tighter road than before to avoid getting squished. But the real fun is in the new laboratory, where you can drive on peacefully when all of a sudden, a T-Rex breaks out of its containment and crashes through the track. And it continues to do so like crazy in the middle and very end of lap 3. It's thrilling to weave as this thing sprints at you. Its tight parts up to the lab remain as well, with a new route along another Brachiosaurus neck, plus a hidden route if you wall ride off a rail. Now the water spouts from before offer a perfect supporting hazard alongside what always should have been the real stars of the show in Dino Jungle's dynamic and thrilling evolution. I was initially a little worried about the return of Toad's Factory from Mario Kart Wii, and if you watched my Mario Kart Wii track ranking video, you know it's never been my favourite course despite my great enjoyment of it. When you first go in, the ramp and mud pool at the end is shorter, the factory overall looks a bit shrunken, but they made these changes to allow the new mechanics to thrive perfectly on an already fantastic course. The factory halls might feel a bit tighter, but that's all to incentivize some piece atop hidden parts from walls and rails, avoiding the occupational health and safety violations and disgusting working class below. The conveyor belt section looks tighter at first, with its crates upsettingly removed, until you realize you can jump in and out of the water and grind every rail lining the previous boundaries of the area, including the ones on the shifting platforms that allow for an amazing rail grind up to another rail, once more above the chaos in an even tighter hallway. But you can only get that kind of reward if you adapt and think super quickly on your feet. It's so addictive because you might not get it every time, but the times you do is because you planned out your timing thoughtfully and quickly realigned yourself to land perfectly on the rail. And again, with that mud section, it might seem diminished at first until you realize you can flip onto this floating steel beam, double flip to one on the right to cut the corner, and triple flip onto the tractor to soar over the competition. I can't get enough of the dopamine of every single one of these cuts. Cuts that are 1000% intentional as opposed to... This means anyone can do them without absolutely perfect precision, just a bit of practice and it'll be second nature. Add this all on top of its pre-existing thematic hazards of conveyor belts, hydraulic presses making the item boxes, and the moving tractors over boost panels in the final muddy rush to the finish line, and it makes for a course I don't think I can ever get bored in. And that remix with its spunky synths and rocking electric guitar have me more pumped than ever to be part of the working class and fall victim to a workplace safety violation. And that's my tier list. The tracks in Mario Kart World are very odd overall because only 2 of the game's original courses made the S tier, and those were 2 they really tend to go all out on. A lot of them had great concepts, but lacking execution. There are of course some great standouts, but I was honestly surprised that the retro courses were the ones to thrive here. They didn't change most of them a whole lot, but the ones with pre-existing craziness get amplified by 1,000 when you add in so many new options to spice up how you traditionally drive them. But if you disagree with that, or any of my rankings, just remember these are my opinions, thus you're fundamentally wrong and should take personal offense. I'm just joking, we love to joke here, like if Nintendo were to largely invalidate this video by heavily restricting these amazing 3-lap courses I've just gushed about for 40 minutes. That would be really funny! You're hired.